Hi, my name is Jennifer DeLeon, and I will be presenting to Apple my business proposal on how they can advance their company. One of my favorite philosophers, Heraclitus, once said, "It is in changing that things find repose." And I'm a firm believer in this because in my own life, I've noticed that change is part of nature, and change is something that is constantly happening, and there is some form of measurement as to tracking and measuring change over time, such as evolution, and also evolution in a company like Apple. A little bit about the history of Apple. Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne were three guys who were just in a garage and were really into computers and wanted to build something. There are many theories as to how Apple even got its name. One was the scientist Isaac Newton. Another was Apple Records, one of Steve Jobs' favorite record labels, and his favorite band in the record label was the Beatles. He also worked in Apple Orchard when he was younger, and there are many talks about Adam and Eve because the Apple logo actually has a bite in it. And also talk of Alan Turing, who's a mathematical scientist who was allegedly poisoned by his own self by biting into an apple. And many inventions have been made by Apple, such as Apple computers, laptops, iPods, iPhones, Apple Watches, AirPods, you name it. Apple's probably on its way to make it become reality. One problem that Apple faces is that evolution only goes so far. And so what many people argue is, can Apple evolve into something even greater? And what is the extent of that? There are constantly frequent updates with Apple, and this upsets customers because a lot of times it means that their own products are outdated. Because Apple comes out with so many phones and different computers constantly, it's hard for the user to keep up with the technology. And oftentimes there aren't that many differences between the products. Maybe slight technological differences, but nothing too extremely major in their products. This first started in the invention of the iPhone 5. There was an iPhone 5, an iPhone 5C, which had like a few different colors, like yellow, blue, red, and then an iPhone 5S, which had the Siri feature built into that. And then later on came the iPhone 6, 7, and 8, which also included a small, a regular version and then a plus-size version of the iPhone. And now I've even seen the iPhone X, X Plus, X Max, all these new iPhones that I can't keep up with, and iPhones were invented during my time. So it's going to be interesting to me how Apple can keep their prices so high every year or even few months. 4 alternatives to Apple would be maybe starting a grocery store, a clothing line, recycling old products to use for future products, and emphasizing the creativeness of Apple. I think an Apple grocery store would be a great idea because Apple already institutes Apple Pay, which is just having credit cards on your phone or even Apple Watch. And I find that very interesting and almost a little bit scary, how convenient you can pay for things. And I think in comparison to Walmart, the Fortune 5 company at the very top, and Apple being third. I think if Apple had some sort of store other than just electronics, I think they would more than double their profit. And also credit cards is another thing that Walmart does. It's something that Apple could incorporate into their business and to help keep them in business and making even more money. I also suggested an Apple clothing line, which very interesting, but I think they're almost on the line of that. I know a lot of car dealerships will have certain clothing of their car's brand and such like that. And I think if Apple incorporated something like that into their products, they would be making just a few extra bucks, not too many, because they make most of their money out of the technology aspect of it, such as the Apple AirPods that they invented and the Apple Watch. I put in a picture here of a Gucci runway model, and I thought that if Apple ever did come out with a very interesting and unique clothing line, it would probably be something similar to Gucci, because it's very well known, very respected, and very high in fashion, which I associate Apple with as being high in technology. I think Apple would be a lot more user-friendly if they recycle their old iPhones and use them to make new iPhones, or even old laptops to make new laptops. Recycling has become something very important to people because of people in China that are taking our electronic waste, and there's literally children playing in our waste from our old phones, and that's not okay for us to do that. I think we should really start caring about our people and our environment by recycling our products and keeping them local, or just keep using them again so they don't have to become waste. I think if Apple did some form of trade-in policy, trade in your old iPhone, get the newest iPhone at a discounted price, I think they would still make money from that and continue to help the environment. I think another thing Apple needs to work on is emphasizing their creativeness. I've read many articles saying that people do not believe that Apple's very creative. I tend to disagree with that. Because I know of features like the iMovie and GarageBand. I know many videographers and music producers that love to use these programs, and I think if Apple incorporated these features into their advertising, they would be a lot more diverse in their audience. And the selective alternative I chose was to emphasize the creativeness of Apple. Like I said, a lot of Android users in particular argue that Apple's not creative and only caps you in your abilities, but I think it actually helps your abilities by making things user-friendly and being very simple. I remember my first time using an iPhone. I never had one, but I seemed to know just what to do because of how user-friendly it was. In order to make this business plan play into action, I think within the first few weeks they should gather a team of individuals to advertise and discuss what needs to be showcased in Apple advertising videos. Another thing would be to watch the progress and then to maybe change anything if need be. Change anything if need be, in their advertising, and then calculate and measure those results and compare them to the first 6 months of their advertising. And then here is a list of references. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at my email, jd108@my.tamu.edu.